That last speech was very traumatic with the muscle rippage and everything. So if everybody wouldn't mind closing their eyes and just relaxing just for a few seconds. Get into some place that's nice and calm and tranquil for you. And just relax just for a few seconds. Okay, now let me guide you on a little story. Imagine you're sitting in a fold-out chair with your hands behind your head. You can feel the warm sun sizzle on your skin, and off in the distance you can hear children laughing and playing. You can feel a soft breeze blow over your skin, and you slowly slip your toes into the white sand of the beach. You open your eyes and you look around and you see the water, the waves crashing on a beach. You try to get up and move towards the water, but every step you move closer to the water, you hear an alarm go off. You keep walking, the alarm gets louder and louder. You suddenly jerk out of bed and realize that alarm going off was your bedside table alarm, and you're now 10 minutes late for work. Now the beach you were on in your dream was Miami, and sadly you will never be able to visit that beach because the year's 2153 and Miami has been underwater for the past 50 years. Now according to Jeff Goodman, a contributing editor of Rolling Stone magazines and environmentalist, he states that within the next 90 years, Miami will be underwater due to rising sea levels. National Geographic confirms that 2 to 4 millimeters of water, the sea rises 2 to 4 millimeters each year. The ice caps are melting, and it's all due to global warming. So today, I'll be talking about electric cars, carbon dioxide, and what we can do to prevent it. Okay. So now that I've stated my main points, let's talk about electric cars. So according to the Department of Transportation, there are 240 million cars on the roads of America. Now every day, those cars pump out carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. If we were all to use electric vehicles, these emissions would be cut. So there's some common misconceptions about electric vehicles. One is that your electricity bill will skyrocket, which isn't necessarily true. Of course it will raise because you are plugging something into your home, but it's only about as much as buying a new refrigerator and plugging it in. Now, since you are plugging something into your home and your electricity bill is raising, you do get the added benefit of not having to buy gas. And electricity will always be cheaper than gas because as gas becomes more of a scarce resource, more expensive it'll get due to supply and demand. The expanded use of electricity will cause coal pollution. Now this is generally true in the main state, that if you just plug your car into the grid, that power, that electricity has to come from somewhere. And we get a lot of power from coal. So just due to that simple fact, coal pollution will rise, but gas pollution due to gas will drop. And overall, electric vehicles are 35 to 60% better at not emitting any type of pollution, whether they're hooked up to any type of electricity source. And car charging will overpower the grid. Now if you put a lot of cars onto a power grid, it does seem like it would overpower the grid because they do draw a large current. People fear that the power grid will go down due to this. But engineers have solved this problem by not allowing public charging stations to work during peak hours. So with them not being able to work during peak hours, this means that when the chargers do work and they are on the grid, they are during non-peak hours, allowing cheaper electricity, and it's not so strenuous on the grid. So now that I've talked about the benefits of an electric car, let's talk about carbon dioxide levels. Now as we can see by this graph, a bunch of different little dots. Each one of these dots represent a core sample from somewhere around the world. After the Industrial Revolution in about the 1800s, carbon dioxide levels have skyrocketed, and this is due to man alone. these levels have risen because we have started mass producing everything using power, using mechanical power. And since that, levels have risen. Now these levels today are actually slightly higher. Earlier this year, carbon levels in the atmosphere have reached 400 parts per million. Now this doesn't sound a lot, but carbon dioxide is never supposed to be that high in our atmosphere. And it is slowly melting the ice caps. That water has to go somewhere, and it's going onto our shores. Go ahead. So what can we do about it? First off, we could all buy an electric vehicle. Imagine if everybody in the United States just stopped using cars and started using electric vehicles. Emissions would drop drastically. 28% of the carbon dioxide that's released into the atmosphere is due to cars, gas-emitting vehicles. Now, while buying an electric car is great, it's not the only thing we can do with an electric car. If you buy a solar panel array to plug that car into, you get free electricity from the grid, or off the grid, and you don't have to, and the electricity you're generating is not emitting any type of pollutants into the air. The next thing you do is you can bike. You can bike anywhere. I'm biking across the country. You can bike 3 miles to school. It's very good health-wise, and it releases no carbon to the air. So let's say that you're doing that. You've got the electric car, you've got the solar panels, and you're biking when you can. So you've stopped emitting carbon into the air due to transportation. But we have a bunch of carbon that's already in the air. How do we take it out? Well, researchers are now developing systems to scrub carbon out of the air, but that's very expensive, and it's still in the process. What we can do right now is buy a tree and plant it. Over its lifetime, a tree will consume over 1,000 pounds of carbon dioxide. So after I'm hearing my speech, how many of you would go out and buy an electric vehicle, permitting you had the money, and a solar array to charge that vehicle?
I was rich.
Now, if that's a little bit too much for you, how many of you would bike to school or work? Every little bit we do helps. Thank you.